Among the Israelis, what started as a protest against judicial reforms is now becoming a rebellion against the Netanyahu government. The question is, will Benjamin Netanyahu be able to make it? Where will this take the Israeli government? Our next report tells you all about that.
Rebellion against the Israeli ruling coalition of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is growing. The day of resistance protests on Thursday over the government's judicial overhaul forced US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin to delay his arrival in Israel. Besides, Austin's visit was confined to a location within the airport grounds due to the judicial reform protests. Netanyahu and his defense minister went to the airport area to meet Austin. And worse, Netanyahu had to take a helicopter to go to the airport in order to avoid the protesters. But protesters on the streets are not Netanyahu's only worry. Earlier reports said that Israel's national airline, El Al, had a difficult time finding pilots to fly Netanyahu to Italy because apparently the pilots too are protesting against his hardline coalition. The airline denied such reports, but the Prime Minister travelled to Italy in a smaller plane instead of the larger Boeing 777. That is how bad the situation in Israel is, and there is more. Nearly 40 reservist fighter pilots in an elite Israeli force squadron have refused to attend training in protest against the government. The move is seen as an unprecedented one by observers. Reacting to the reports, Netanyahu said that the threats to refuse military service endanger Israel's existence.
כשאנו נלחמים בשדה הקרב ומסתכלים ימינה ושמאלה,
it rests on the deep understanding that whatever the differences between us, we are always united in the face of those who seek to kill us. This was the case throughout all of Israel's wars. Regardless of the struggles and disagreements among us, refusal threatens this existential foundation.
So what is happening in Israel? The current Netanyahu-led coalition has been in office for a little over 2 months, and the Prime Minister's troubles began less than a week after that, with his cabinet minister's visit to Al-Aqsa Mosque. Since then, frequent violence in the West Bank, a recent settler attack in Huara, protests over judicial reforms, friction within the coalition, and the weakening of the shekel have been matters of constant worry. As soon as the Israeli government announced the judicial reform plan, a sense of alarm spread across the country. Israel has seen weekly protests and sometimes more frequently, bringing hundreds of thousands of Israelis out on the streets screaming against the judicial reforms. With Netanyahu's ultra-orthodox and extreme-right coalition partners adamant on staying the course, the Prime Minister seems to be on the brink. There is alarm in the business community as well. Worried central bankers have urged Israeli politicians to slow down. Some technology firms have said that they're moving their money out of the country as they see the judicial reforms as an assault on democracy. But the problem for Netanyahu is not just within Israel. Israel's closest ally, the United States, is also concerned over the recent happenings in Israel. The unending violence in the West Bank, provocative statements of ministers, and the government's push to reform the judiciary have rung alarm bells in Washington. According to reports, invitations for Netanyahu to visit the United States and the UAE have been kept in abeyance as discomfort with the Israeli government is rising. Both Washington and Abu Dhabi are reportedly waiting to see what unfolds during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which begins in late March, before proceeding with plans to host Netanyahu. So what is next for Israel and Netanyahu is anybody's guess. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.